Oh, Govinda. Okay, Ram. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatiravanachari Jamunatiravanachari Jararum Marava Kunjabihari What's the next line? Gopijana Balava Girivanadari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatiravanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Boom. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Boom. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jirarum Marava Kunjabe Hari Jirarum Marava Kunjabe Hari Jayara Marava Kunda Behari Marava Kunda Behari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Puri Vijayakachari Rasaketa Shisham in His divine grace. Abhay Charan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON BBT founder Charya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Anantakota Vaishya Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki. What's next? Shri Shri Radha Go Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mathura Dham Ki Dwarka Dham Ki Navadvip Dham Ki Jagannathpuri Dham Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Ganga Mai Ki Tulsi Maharani Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Sambhira Bhakti Vinda Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Shri Sri Radha Giridhari Ki Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki Gopremanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the divine lotus feet of Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Hey Sankarshan, here's a pen. Oh, you got, yeah, just put it, yeah, throw it in the trash, do it now. Because it's sitting on the seat pointed up was not an act of sabotage. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Krishna Sadamo Bhagate Dhamigana Dibisa Kalanasa Dashamisha Parano Konadodata Narayana Namaskritcha Naram Chaivam Narotama Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat. The Bhagavatam is as brilliant as the sun. It is arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied with knowledge, religion, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of the age of Kali shall get light out of this Purana. Before beginning our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respects to the personality of Godhead Narayan, to the Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, the author Srila Vyasdeva, and my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So, carrying on with the mood in some pastimes from Gopastami, I selected this verse from the 3rd canto, chapter 2, text 29. Sa eva go danam lakshma niketam sita go visham charayan anugan gopan ranad venu ariramat seeva godanam lakshmya niketam sita go brisham charayan anugan gopan ranadvenur ariramat seeva godanam lakshmya niketam sita go brisham charayan anugan gopan ranadvenur ariramat seeva godanam lakshmya niketam sita go brisham charayan anugan gopan ranadvenur ariramat seeva godanam lakshmya niketam sita go brisham charayan anugan gopan ranadvenur ariramat seeva godanam lakshmya niketam sita go brisham charayan anugan gopan ranadvenur ariramat seeva godanam lakshmya niketam sita go brisham charayan anugan gopan ranadvenur ariramat. Vaishnavis. Seeva godanam lakshmya niketam sita go brisham charayan anugan gopan ranadvenur ariramat seeva godanam lakshmya niketam sita go brisham charayan anugan gopan ranadvenur ariramat seeva godanam lakshmya niketam sita go brisham charayan anugan gopan ranadvenur ariramat. Sa, he, Lord Krishna, eva, certainly, godanam, the treasure of cows, lakshmya, by opulence, niketam, reservoir, sita go brisham, beautiful cows and bulls, charayan, herding, anugan, the followers, gopan, cowherd boys, ranat, blowing, venu, flute, ariramat, enlivened. Translation: While herding the very beautiful bulls, the Lord, who was the reservoir of all opulence and fortune, used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boys. Also you say, while herding the very beautiful bulls, the Lord, who was the reservoir of all opulence and fortune, used to blow his flute, and thus he enlivened his faithful followers, the cowherd boys. All those cowherd boys sometimes used to say to Krishna, they would have wrestling matches and different kind of contests. And if Krishna lost, then they would say, well, what kind of big man are you? You got to carry me on your shoulder. So even though they're his faithful followers, like we heard the other day with Govardhan Hill, when Krishna said to the cowherd boys, I'm going to put the hill down now, so you got to move out from under. They said, you move out, we're holding it up. So they had their different sporting pastimes, different moods. As he grew to 6 and 7 years old, the Lord was given charge of looking after the cows and bulls in the grazing grounds. He was the son of a well-to-do landholder who owned hundreds and thousands of cows. And according to Vedic economics, one is considered to be a rich man by the strength of his store of grains and cows. With only these two things, cows and grains, humanity can solve its eating problem. Human society needs only sufficient grains and sufficient cows to solve its economic problems. All other things, but these two, are artificial necessities created by man to kill his valuable life at the human level and waste his time in things which are not needed. Lord Krishna, as the teacher of human society, personally showed by his acts that the mercantile community, or Vaishyas, should herd cows and bulls and thus give protection to the valuable animals. Now they give protection to the dog and eat the cow. According to the Smriti regulations, the cow is the mother and the bull is the father of human beings. The cow is the mother because just as one sucks the breast of one's mother, human society takes cow's milk. Similarly, the bull is the father of human society because the father earns for the children just as the bull tills the ground to produce food grains. Human society will kill its spirit of life by killing the father and the mother. It is mentioned herein that the beautiful cows and bulls were of various checkered colors, not just solid colors. Some were solid colors, but some were checkered. That's an interesting thought. And here's the checkered colors: red, black, green, yellow, ash, which is a kind of gray, etc. Because of their colors and healthy, smiling features, the atmosphere was enlivening. Over and above all, the Lord used to play his celebrated flute. The sound vibrated by his flute would give his friends such transcendental pleasure that they would forget all talks of the Brahmananda, which is so praised by the impersonalists. This is Prabhupada taking a little jab at the, they want to meditate on what's the sound of one hand clapping, or what is the, esoteric this and that of Omkara. But the cowherd boys, they just want to hear Krishna's flute. We're going to talk about that flute in a minute. Okay, where were we? The cowherd boys, as will be explained by Sukadeva Goswami, were living entities who had accumulated heaps of pious acts, and thus were enjoying with the Lord in person, and were hearing his transcendental flute. The Brahma Samhita 530 confirms the Lord's blowing his transcendental flute. Venum kvanantam aravinda talayataksham bhavatam samasitam buddha sundarangam kandarpakoti kamaniya visesha sobam govindamadi purusham tamam bhajami. Brahmaji said, I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who plays on his transcendental flute. His eyes are like lotus flowers. He is decorated with peacock plumes, and his bodily color resembles a fresh black cloud. And it's described that, is it the third row? I think it's the third row of the monsoon clouds. When the monsoons arrive, the color of the third row of clouds to come in is sham. That's the color. It's a grayish, bluish, wonderful color. Okay, where were we? Okay. His bodily features are more beautiful than millions of cupids. These are the special features of the Lord. I didn't see any mention of a gray beard. Did you? And wrinkles. I didn't hear those things mentioned. Om Gena Timarandasya Gyana Gena Salakaya Jakshu Shun Militangina Tazarishi Gurave Namaha. Before I forget, the Lord Brahma, Taine Brahma Hridaya Adikavaye, he's the first living entity and the creator of all creation in this universe. And how is he initiated? He hears Krishna's flute. And from hearing Krishna's flute, that's how he's initiated. And from that flute sound vibration and meditating on it, all the Vedic mantras come. All creation flows out of that. So everything that we, from subtle to gross, is the way it works. Initially from Krishna's sound vibration of his flute, which is the very embodiment and source of Omkara, Krishna's flute, all Vedic sound vibration, all Shabda Brahman evolves, comes out from. And from those Vedic mantras, all creations come. So everything in this cosmos rests on Krishna's flute. It's no ordinary flute, by the way. So I was thinking about this because Prabhupada talks about it, that Prabhupada used to say that you can't live on nuts and bolts. It's talking about different social structures here. And the Vedic social structure as being the one that's healthy and enlivening and cultivating the finer sentiments of humankind. That's what society is meant to do. It's not to turn us into brutish beasts of labor. If you ever were in Detroit, which was nicknamed Motor City, so I lived in Detroit for some years at the Detroit Temple, and you would hear the whistle go off and watch people flow out of the different factories. There was the River Rouge stamping factory. And I asked a guy one time who I met in the parking lot distributing books, and he was living in, he worked in the factory. I said, what do you make? He said, I don't know. He said, I put the steel sheet in, I pull the lever, wham! And he said, and it comes out all bent to hell. I mean, who knows? He was making hoods on cars or bumpers or who knows what he was making. And you would see that across, and there was also another one of my favorite places, was the Uniroyal Tire Factory. And people would come out completely black. Their clothes would be black, their hair would be black, their faces would be black. So outside the factory, right across the street, the main street was Jefferson, I think, yeah, Jefferson. So right across, you'd see brothels, you'd see bars, and you'd see quick loans. Because they'd take whatever little money they had, borrow it for gambling or for, whatever little eke out. Maybe they could buy a car. So it's horrible. Horrible. Prabhupada said that factory is another name for hell. That's not how people are meant to live. There's a study. It's a big deal now, because it can increase your life up to 30%. You listen to most of these surveys, it's like 5%, 2%, maybe 10%, up to 30%. It's a joint study by University of Chicago and Johns Hopkins Medical School, top universities. And what are these circadian rhythms? Which is, your internal clock, when to go to. Turns out your circadian rhythms, which comes from a place in the brain, they say, but it affects all the other clocks, your digestive system, everything else. And they've found that if you get light during the daytime, you go out and get even a half hour more light, daylight, natural daylight. It has an amazing, profound effect on your health. And what completely messes up your circadian rhythms, and which means when do you go to bed, when do you wake up, when do you digest food, and what completely throws it out of whack? Anybody want to guess? Has to do with light. Dark, okay, you're getting there. Yeah. Yeah, screens. The light from these screens, and watching screens late at night, fooling around with your phone, checking out what is it, TikTok, whatever it is, completely messes everything up. So much. So here it's talking, they put Prabhupada in a basement in Seattle. Prabhupada was coming all of a sudden. And so the room, it's in that Gargamuni book. So there's a basement, and it had little slit windows, because you're in the basement. There's a little. And Prabhupada said, "Why have you put me in this dungeon?" And Prabhupada talks about, a pigeonhole in a skyscraper building where you don't get fresh air and you don't get light, and you just cramped, shoehorned into a little box, staying up late at night, getting that blue light off your. That's not for human. It's for moles and rats and snakes, living in a hole in the ground. It's not for human beings. And it affects everything. We're meant to have a society that develops the finer sentiments of humankind. People are meant to be compassionate and kind and think about. Sariputta was a horrible farmer. He gave up everything, double PhD, teaching at Cornell University, gave everything up and moved into New Vrindavan. Koladri told me this. And nobody wanted Sariputta on their farm detail because they thought he was spaced out. He'd be digging a fence hole, and he'd shovel and throw the dirt. He told me this. And then, being the nature of, a thoughtful person, extremely thoughtful, he'd calculate how the dirt fell, and that proves Pythagoras' theory of, this and that, and that confirms Heisenberg's gas law, and zing! And they say, "Hey, Rich, back to the hole." Oh, okay, very humble. But, you know, people are not, they're meant to be thoughtful, deep thinkers, compassionate. And that makes you happy. So there's an ethos. There's a self-centered, miserly, I'm going to get what I need for me. And people are forced to do it, actually. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. You got to compete and, you know. So that, well, I'll say it, and it's a bit, you know, try, I've seen it so many times in India and other places. You're standing in line waiting for, let's say, the bank window to open, or you're going to buy a railway ticket or whatever it is, and the window's closed, everybody's lined up. Sometimes in India, of course it's advancing, America's becoming third world, India's becoming first world, but you knew you were in for trouble when you went into it. There's a long line and there was a benches. What does that mean? It means it is not moving, that line. At least they got provided a bench for you. So, but everybody's lined up. The window opens. What happens? Forget the line. Everybody's there for the, you know. Because the thing is, you got 100 people and you got 6 seats. So, you know, I'm getting in there first, you know. Trip the old lady. Poke the kid in the eye, I'm getting in line first. So you've got to, that's the ethos or the psychology or the mentality of the people. And when you've got, you know, fresh air and your exercise, you know, kids develop healthy immune systems if they play in the dirt. I'm not saying, you know, pig pen, go out there and eat dirt and dig around. But if you actually work outside, it's healthy. You go up to the farm. You go up to our farm in Escondido and just walk around. Everything you were so worried about and, you know, you're wound. There's a book called Faster. I have not read it, but somebody sent me a gloss on the thing. And it's talking about, well, previously, I would write you a letter. Let's suppose I'm living in America and you're living in England, in London. Talk about hell, Dickens' hell. But I would write you a letter and mail it. And it would sail across the ocean. It would take 2 weeks to get to you. And you would sit down peacefully and you'd read the letter. And suppose that letter had bad news and I was angry at you. Well, I'd get all steamed up and then I'd sit down to write the letter and I would have had time to think about it and I got to write the thing out and I would soften, you know, well, maybe you're actually right. And I'd mail the letter off. So that was a 2-week, you know, interval. Then comes along telegraph. Okay, so I get it right away. Well, I'm jacked up and I send you back a nasty letter. But even then, they got to print it out. They used to have what were those guys called? Telegram guys? Western Union. They would deliver it to you, you know? So that, okay, maybe it's shortened down to a couple days. Okay. I wound a little tighter. Then I pick up a phone. Now I got a phone. So-called advancement. I got a phone. I call you and give you hell. Right on the spot. And you pick it up, you know. But you don't always have to pick up the phone, do you? So there's a little bit of I'm not answering the phone then. But it's wound up, you know. It's tighter and tighter and tighter, like a clock, winding a clock tight. And then you got an answering machine, you know, latest advancement. Well, I left you a message. So there's no excuse, right? Well, you don't have to play the message, but now everybody's got, email and texting, and people are wound so tight. They're expected, many jobs, you're expected. You got to respond. At 2 o'clock on a Sunday morning, a.m., you get a text message. Hey, you didn't respond. I sent you a text message. So people are wound. Eat. Picture how fast. People are wound so tight. No wonder there's road rage and this and that. And people, they just blow up. But you go out to the farm in Escondido, you walk around, you cool down, you take them some apples, take some carrots for the horse and the cows. Prabhupada said, you know what the most beautiful animal is? Prabhupada was driving from Detroit to New Vrindavan. And he asked, Prabhupada was looking out the window. I'm not going to give you a hint, but looking at the countryside. And there are different types of farms. So Prabhupada asked the devotees, what is the most beautiful animal? Anyone want to say? Hey, Ram. Yeah, devotees all said cow. Prabhupada said, no. Horse. Horses are beautiful animals. If Prabhupada liked it. Very, elegant. A racing horse. Because there's a lot of horse farms and racing, as you go through Kentucky and like that on the New Vrindavan. Beautiful, beautiful animals. So the point is that we can either live in a miserly pigeonhole in a skyscraper building with no fresh air. Everything's, Prabhupada said fruit should be, somebody dropped us off those persimmons. You know what charity is in Kali Yuga? I bite into an apple and it's nasty. I say, oh, this tastes horrible. You want it? That's charity in Kali Yuga. Prabhupada said charity in Kali Yuga is at least the laundryman returns your clothes. And even then, it's missing a sock or two. So what kind of society is that? You're wound so tight in a pigeonhole of a skyscraper building, eating fruit that was picked green and shipped from Chile. I mean, that's not the human form of life. And what is that wealth? What happens? If the power blows out, people riot. Everything rots in the supermarket. It's frozen or this or that. The milk all goes bad. You give them a couple days without electricity. Oh, it is not a pretty scene. Those pictures in World War II, with a wheelbarrow full of, what is it, German, it's called the Mark? Is that what it's called? What is a German? Isn't it? Anyway, whatever. They got to get a loaf of bread. Prabhupada said you can't eat nuts and bolts. What's the use of it? So, Prabhupada was on a morning walk, and he said that there should be gold standard. Behind the money, there should be gold. There used to be gold standard in America until, I don't know what, Roosevelt, 1930s? Earlier? I don't know. Later? I don't know. But not that long ago in the grand scheme of things. You could literally go, in theory, you could go into the bank with your $1 or $100 and get $100 worth of gold, or $1. It was a gold standard, and therefore the money had some value. But now it's a Federal Reserve note, which means if you walk into the bank and say, "Give me my gold," all they're obliged to do is give you another slip of paper. So what is the stability? What is the security? And things go squirrely. I mean, why did whatever it is, there's other reasons, but the main reason that the Democrats lost, anybody know? Because they're all cheaters and liars, and that's another reason, but because of inflation. People are fried. The Federal Reserve taps the thermostat, and the money goes this way and that, and the poor person, all of a sudden, they're walking in to buy bread and milk, and it's, increased by 30% or whatever it is. And they're fried. So this is not, they may criticize. So Prabhupada's on a morning walk, and he said it should be gold standard. Otherwise, if you don't have gold standard, there's inflation and there's, And the devotees said, and, it's a natural question. They said, but Prabhupada, if we have gold standard, how are you going to do these? I mean, companies are selling for billions of dollars with a B. Yeah, I mean, that's, huge. There are these huge, what is the International Monetary Fund? They do these transfers, literally, billions of dollars. So they said, Prabhupada, how will we do that? How would this commerce go on with the gold standard? How will we do these huge transactions? Prabhupada said, that's my point. You can't do them. I mean, people find out all the time that, you're cruising along, give your life to a company, you're working hard, My father, in his day, the average person, you worked for the same company, you worked hard. I mean, it's misplaced loyalty, but at least in this regard, and you would be able to retire with a full pension. You'd be able to put your kids through college, and you'd be a factory worker. You became a good factory worker, welder or whatever it was. You work in Detroit, got a little summer cabin, you paid off your house, put your kids through college, retired with a full pension. It's the American dream. But it's gone. So my point is that it may sound, well, that's just romantic, but for much of the time, that's how the world worked. And if you look at it, we should not run away from the Vedic system. It is profoundly true. People, we've had fascism, you've got communism, you've got socialism, you've got democracy, so many social systems, and they've all failed. That's a simple fact. But Vedic system, based on agrarian culture, actually works. Now, we're not taking everybody back to the Stone Age like Pol Pot in Cambodia. We're not talking about that. But the basic principles of having an ethical, healthy, simple culture, it works. Okay, so that's that in the mood of Gopastami. I wanted to say, looking at the time factor, we talked about how Krishna didn't wear shoes, right? All the gopis, Mother Yasoda, worried about Krishna with, going out in the forest. Now he's taking care of the cows. He's going to be arranging. Do you know that the reason Krishna didn't have to worry about the going out into the forest and sticks and rock? Of course, he's transcendental lotus feet. But the cows, as service, according to Rupa Goswami, would go in front of Krishna and make the ground nice and soft. So that was part of the cow's service, so that when Krishna went out he didn't feel any inconvenience. I will just zip through these quickly. Prabhupada says in the purport, this is, anyway, it's a long story. In the Krishna book, one can anoint or paint the horns with turmeric and put sindura, which is a red color, on the cow's forehead, and hand marks, palm prints all over the cows. One should then feed them fresh, sweet grasses and circumambulate them. That's what you do on Gopastami. You decorate the horns with nice yellow turmeric. You put nice, like the women on their part, married women, put that red there. And then Prabhupada said you can also gold leaf their hoofs, because who's got the money for that? So that we've read. So this is from Bhakti Charu Maharaj. He said that when all the different devas gave gifts to Krishna when he first, now he's from 6 to 7. When he's 7 years old, then he's given charge with all of his friends of the full-grown cows. So one of the things is that Nanda Maharaj gave Krishna, we saw your son, Mukunda, was here with a little cowherd stick. So the cowherd boys have that stick. So the stick that Lord Indra gave to, Nanda Maharaj gave to Krishna was jewel encrusted, gave him a jewel encrusted stick for herding his cows. So. Now, Mother Yasoda, now he's going alone out to the forest. Mother Yasoda is worried about it. So she instructed, Balaram, you go in front. Sudam, you go in back with Krishna in the middle. And the other cowherd boys are on both sides. So there's a phalanx of cowherd boys protecting Krishna when he goes out to the forest. I guess we could read this. This is from Sridhar Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Maharaj, Prabhupada's godbrother. And I'll just read it quickly. It's some details of Radharani, and we can end there. So this is from his book called Loving Search for the Lost Servant. On this very day, Gopastami, Krishna's devotees also remember another intimate pastime, often referred to as Subal Milana. On this day, many temples in Vrindavan and now throughout the world show the deity form of Srimati Radharani with her lotus feet visible. Every other day of the year, Radharani, the supremely chaste goddess of devotion of Krishna, keeps her feet covered. Why is it that she displays her lotus feet on this one day of the year? Okay. Amongst all of Krishna's friends, this is the background of why, Subal is perhaps the most intimate. He's the leader of the Sakis, the cowherd boy Sakas, who serve as accomplices in Krishna's loving dealings with Radharani. They're always, in addition, Prabhupada says that Krishna has an air force and Radharani has an air force. They all have, the original drones. They all have their own parrots. And the Krishna's parrots are spying on the gopis. And the gopis' parrots, Radharani's parrots, are spying on Krishna. That's how they know when to ambush each other or block the pass and, charge them a toll. Because they all know where the other one's going because they got their parrots, drones in the sky. So one day, Krishna's feeling intense separation. And he says to Subal, you have to bring Radharani. I want to perform my Rasalila pastimes and so many things, so you have to bring Radharani. Subal responds, how am I going to bring Srimati Radharani in the daytime or out here through everything and into the forest? She's not supposed to mix. Jatila, the mother-in-law, the mother of Abhimanyu, she's a super cop. And, she's always got, what's this Krishna trying to do? So how is she going to come out, leave her house, and in the broad daylight, come out to the forest? How's it possible? Krishna said, you're smart, you just figure it out. Go and figure it out. So what did Subal do? So Subal, he took a little baby calf. That's why you'll see later on Radharani, usually they show her, dressed as a boy and holding a calf. So this was Subal's ruse. He took a little calf and he got up to Jutila's, and usually a house in those, now they're a pigeonhole in a skyscraper building, but you have a little compound. You have your house, and there's a wall around it, and you have a little garden in front, where you get your cows, and you got some nice flowers for the puja. You got your vegetable garden. You got some room to breathe, not all slammed in. Anyway, so when he got up to the compound, Radharani's house, like she's in the home of her ostensible her husband. So Subal pulls the tail. When he gets up there, he puts the calf down, pulls the tail a little bit, and the baby calf takes off, runs into the... So then Subal shows up, and Jatila says, hey, you're not taking one step further. I know you guys, you're in there with, cahoots with Krishna, and you're going to cause trouble, so you can't, no. And he says, no, mother, no. I've lost my calf. And, he ran into your area, into your car. So I'm just looking, let me just get my calf and I'll get out. So she says, all right, go look. So he goes, but it gives him an excuse. He gets past her, and he gets up to the house, slips in the side door and tells Radharani, gets his calf and tells Radharani, hey, Krishna wants to meet you. Well, what's she going to do? So at that point, they're in the interior of the house. Subal's alone with Radharani. They switch clothes. So Subal puts on Radharani's clothes, and as far as Jatila Mata you can see, there's Radharani sitting in there churning or, singing or doing whatever she's doing. Okay, she's there, but it's actually Subal. And Radharani in Subal's clothes holding the calf says, okay, thanks, found my cow. And she just walks out. And that's how they managed to sneak Radharani. That's why she's dressed in Subal's clothes, and that's why you can see her lotus feet holding a calf. And I wanted to read one thing from, and if I didn't do something stupid. Hang on. And this is, so it's not there. It must be here. Okay, this is from Krishna book when Krishna and Balaram were in Gurukula. And you'll understand why. After hearing only, Sandapani Muni, they were in their Guru's ashram. After hearing only once from their teachers, Krishna and Balaram learned all arts and sciences. In 64 days and 64 nights, they earned all 64 arts. They learned, They learned all necessary arts and sciences required in human society. During the daytime, they took lessons on a subject from the teacher, and by nightfall, they were expert in that department of knowledge. They also learned the art, amongst the 64 arts, how to mix from plants and herbs, fragrant oils. They weren't, learning algebra 2. They were doing other kind of stuff. So one of the things they learned the art of performing magical feats. Within the magical field, there is an art called Bahurupi, by which a person dresses himself in such a way that when he approaches a friend, he cannot be recognized. So that's Did you guys learn that in high school or college? Yeah, I missed that course. But the point is that that's how they knew the art. So, of course, it's Leela also. But Radharani could disguise herself. Krishna could disguise himself. Subal could. So that's a little more about the Gopastami. Thank you very much, Hare Krishna. Hey, Govind. And that was a blissful festival yesterday. In so many ways. Nice prasadam, beautiful deities, nice kirtan, nice katha, chakra with flags.